Hello pre-calculus students, and welcome to a video on how to use some of the basic functions of the TI-83 or 84 calculator. I'm going to demonstrate on an old TI-83 calculator. You guys can, if you have a Chromebook, which you all should have, you can get an app on the Chromebook that allows you to use a TI-84 plus C, which is the color version, which is much nicer than this. But I'm not demonstrating with the Chromebook, so it only works on Chromebooks. You can't use that with Windows or with Mac. Okay, so we're going to start out by, first of all, let's talk about our plan. So our plan is to learn how to graph a function. So we're going to start from the beginning, because I know some of you have never used a graphing calculator. So we're going to learn how to graph a function. We're going to learn how to find intercepts on a function, and these are examples in your textbook. So page 11, example 10, to graph a function. Also change the viewing window a little bit. Finding intercepts will be on page 13, example 13. We're also going to find the intercepts of the first one that we graphed, by the way. We're going to learn how to solve equations on page 26 and 27. There's a couple of good examples. And then we're going to jump to where we currently are in chapter 2, and we're going to learn how to find local max and mins and use those to find where a function's increasing or decreasing. Okay, but let's start with the basics, and there's going to be a part 1 and part 2 of this, so let's see where we can go with our first example. Now, our first example is example 10 on page 11, is you're given this equation right here. Now, one thing to be aware of is that these calculators, these graphing calculators, another name for these, they're function graphers. They will not graph a non-function. They don't just graph any relation, only functions. Okay, so when you push the y equals, that kind of gives it away in a way, because you can't have a y squared or a plus or minus. That's not a function. So we can only graph functions. And this first equation is a function, but we've got to change it to y equals so we can plug it into a calculator. So you can't, this is not quite calculator ready. Now it is. So we're going to plug this into our graphing calculator, and this is the first function that we graph. We know it's going to be a parabola, and we know it's opening down, and we know that it's going to be moved up along the x-axis of the y-axis a bit. Okay, so let's take a look at how to do that. So we're just going to enter the equation into the calculator. Now, a word of caution: this is negative, this is the opposite of a number, and this is subtraction. You can't use one where you mean the other. You have to use the right one. We're going to start out with a -2, so we're going to use this. Okay, so let's be careful that we don't start out with subtraction. You can't subtract if there's nothing there to subtract from. The calculator doesn't understand that. So we're going to put in negative, or the opposite, the little one. By the way, the big one looks like this. They look different, so you'll get used to that. But I'm just going to go back and put that -2. And then the variable, the key that you're going to use a lot, is this one right here. That's the x. It's also going to be used later for other kinds of variables, but right now, if you push it, you're just going to get an x on there. And then we want to square that. So there's a couple ways to square it, but squaring is easy because there's a key just for that. You just have to hit that key. Whoops, I didn't show you, but when you hit that key, that square turns up, pops up there. Okay, and then plus 12. All right. Now, if you just hit graph, which is fine, you're going to get what's called the standard window. Now, I'm going to push the window key first so you can see what you're going to get. You're going to get a graph that has the x min over here at the left side of the screen will be -10. The right side will be +10. The bottom of the y-axis that you will see will be the -10, and the top will be +10. And the y scale and the x scale, that's where the tick marks are. So we're going to see 10 tick marks in each direction. Okay, I just push the graph button, and that's what I see. Now notice that the graph is cut off. So we can always change the window to fix that, and that's the first thing that we're going to do right now. We're just going to change the window so we can get the top of the curve. We want to be able to see it. All right, so I'm going to go to the window button, and we know that this goes up to 10, and it looks like it's close. So I just want to go up. I just want to be able to see up to 15. I can't see up here. What I have to do is compress this so it's coming down. So instead of this being 10, 10 will be down here somewhere, and this will be 15. So I'm going to make y max 15. So go to the window, find y max, which is down here, and change it. Whoops, I went too far. Change it to 15. And then let's look at the graph now. So just hit graph again, and now you can see the top of the parabola. All right, while we're here, let's find the intercepts. We've got two kinds of intercepts, and you find them in different ways. All right, let's look at where you're going to find them. So they're both going to be found by getting to this calc section. It calculates the intercepts. So to do that, I need to push this yellow second button and then get to calc. So second, calc. All right, and I have two things here. I'm going to use the value to find the y-intercept and the 0 to find the x-intercepts. Let's find the y-intercept first because it's easier. Being a function, if I push value and I hit an x, there's only going to be one output. And that's if I make x equal to 0, I'm going to get the one output that I want, which is the y-intercept. So if I want x equals 0, I just hit enter, and it tells me that the y-intercept is 12. Okay, it shows me where it is on the graph, tells me that it's 12. Okay, so that's the y-intercept. That's easy because there's only one of them. The x-intercept is a little bit more involved because there's two of them, and you need to tell the calculator which one you're looking for. Okay, so the way you do that is you hit second again, calc, to get to that same screen as before. And this time I want the 0. The 0 means where y equals 0. Where y equals 0 is an x-intercept. So I'm going to hit that. And now it's asking me for a left bound. And basically what it's saying is, if you're asking me for an x-intercept, you got to tell me which one it is. I'm being the calculator right now. Okay, that's what the calculator is saying. So if you want this intercept, then go to the left of this, and then go to the right of it, and I'll know I'm going to get you the one between those two bounds. So it's asking for a left bound first. And notice it says left. It doesn't say upper or lower. It says the left. So it's going to be easier to remember. You have to get there by hitting the left and right keys. If you hit the down key, nothing happens. You have to go left to move along the independent variable to move the curve. Now I know, even though I'm below the axis, what really is important is I'm to the left of the point that I want. So I hit enter. And see that little arrow popped up there? It says, okay, now what about the other side? So now I'm going to hit the other direction here, and I'm just going to hit it a couple times until I know for sure that I'm to the right of the point that I want. And I know it's easy to focus on the fact that we're above it, but what's more important is not that, but that we're to the right of it. Hit enter again, and it says, okay, I'm good now. I understand what I'm being the calculator again. It's saying, I understand what you want. You want to find an x-intercept between these two bounds. So hit enter and I'll tell you. So that's all you got to do is hit enter. And there you have the x-intercept to a few decimal places. Okay, let's really quickly go to the other x-intercept, and we might predict that there's symmetry, but let's just practice a little bit. Okay, so I'll walk you through the steps. So I'm going to go to second, calc. I'm going to go to 0 because I want where y equals 0 for the x-intercept. I'm going to look for a left bound. Now, right now, I'm to the left of the wrong point. So I've got to go over, keep on going over until I can really stop any time now because I'm to the left of the point that I want now, but I'm going to stop when I'm fairly close. Hit enter, and I've got a left bound. I'm going to go over a little bit more to get a right bound, so I'm just going to hit this 1 or 2 more times until I'm sure that I'm on the right side of it. Hit enter again. It knows where to look. You'll see something there to show you that. Hit enter one more time, and we verified we have the same value on the right side. This is a positive version of it. So this is in fact an even function. All right? Let's try this with one more example. Okay, so if you go to page 13 and you look at example 13, that's the example. So let's go back to our calculator, and I left it right where it was so you could see what to do with this. Okay, let's go back to y equals, and notice that equation's still there. Now you can keep it there. You can just put it sort of on silent by moving the cursor over to the equal sign and hitting enter, and then move it back and see how the equal sign is no longer highlighted. That means when you hit graph, it doesn't graph that anymore. It's just going to keep it there just in case you want it for later. We're not going to use it later, so we're just going to clear it. So go anywhere on the function, hit the clear button, and it will clear out the equation. I don't know if I mentioned, but you have to make sure also that your plots are off. So here I just turned one of my plots on. If you see a screen like that, go up to the plot, hit enter. That will turn it off. Go back down and make sure that they're all off. Okay, that's hopefully if that's been giving you problems, now you know why. But if you're starting from scratch and your calculator hasn't been used before, then you shouldn't have that issue. All right, let's put in the equation x cubed minus 16. Now this is where my calculator falls a little bit short. Yours are slightly better for this, but I'm going to go x, just like before, the x with all those other variables. Now if I want cubed, I raise it, this little caret top raises it to an exponent. And when I put the 3 in there, my old calculator keeps it in caret notation. Your newer calculator will probably put that 3 and make it look just like an exponent. All right, x cubed minus 16. Okay, now if I just go zoom, I hit the zoom button because that's got some basic window choices, and I go to zoom standard. That's that negative 10 to 10 thing, so let's use that as a starting place. So from there, I'm going to hit enter, and it's going to give me the graph on that window. And it looks like it's not a very good window. So this is not going to be an exercise in searching for and finding the right window. So I'm just going to tell you, and the example in the book also tells you the window to use. It goes from -5 to +5. So let's go to window. We're just going to change it. Okay, from -5 to +5. -5 to +5. And then keep the scale at 1. In the y's, we're going to change the y negative all the way down to -25. Negative, don't forget it's negative, not subtraction. -25. And then all the way up to 5. So not all the way up to 10. We don't need all that. And we're going to change our scale. Since there's so many here, let's just take a look at what this looks like before we change the scale. We're going to get the graph. But take a look at the y-axis. Look how close together those points are. Really hard to read what you're looking at. So for that reason, we're going to go back to window, change our scale for the y's so that we're looking at every 5. Now it's a lot easier to read. You can say, oh, I can tell that that's a little bit below 15. Now let's go ahead and find our two intercepts. Let's find our y-intercept first. Remember, the y-intercept is when x equals 0. So we go to second calc, start out with value, let x equals 0, hit enter. It tells us that we've got a y-intercept of -16, which we could have already figured out, but we can see it here. Now let's find the x-intercept, which is a little bit harder to tell exactly what it is. So we're going to go to second calc, go down to the 0. This means y equals 0. And we have to be to the left of it, which we already are. We can be way to the left. It's okay. It's not going to change your answer, not significantly, not enough to notice. So hit enter, and it's going to give us something between there and, even though this graph only has 1, you always have to go through this process. Be careful here where you'll lose the cursor. Once it's above the x-axis, I know that it's to the right of the point that I want, so I'm good right there. Now, the cursor's a little bit unclear what we're looking at there, but it's going to be between an arrow here and an arrow here. Hit enter one more time, and there is our x-intercept at 2.519, etc. Okay, I hope you found this video helpful. Part 2 is going to be on solving equations and finding local max and min.